Hello, this is Mom,
And this is Dad.
and we're going to tell some stories to you.
Now listen up.
Some of these stories will be old and you may never have heard them, and some of them you may have heard. We're going to start way back. How back far do you go, Dad? When were you?
1921.
1921?
Yeah.
When were you born?
January 4.
Where were you born?
Owasso, Michigan.
In what place?
903 South Park Street.
Oh, did you have any brothers or sisters?
Oh yeah. 6 brothers and 2 sisters.
Where did you come in the line?
I was the eighth one
Eighth one? Eighth one of what?
of the whole family.
I mean, how many boys and how many girls?
7 boys and 2 girls.
Hmm.
9 altogether.
But didn't you have some halves in there?
4 half brothers. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, now we've established the fact that you are the ninth one in a family of 7 boys and 2 girls. You couldn't be the ninth one because Amy came after you. So you were the 8th one?
Yeah.
Okay, name your brothers, starting with the oldest.
Marion, Arthur, Robert, Laverne, Chet, Clarence, and me.
And your sisters were?
Gertie and Amy.
I don't remember Laverne. You called him Bert, didn't you?
Bert, yeah, he was Bert.
And then you had, what are the
Bert and
half-brothers?
Bob,
What half-brothers did you have?
Lucian, Harry, Earl, and John.
Mm-hmm. And your mother's maiden name was?
Damon, Hattie Damon.
Abby Eloise?
Eloise Damon.
And your dad's name was?
William Joseph.
Paul. And I understand you're a little bit Irish.
Yeah, Irish, Scotch,
English? English, Scotch, Irish.
Yeah.
Hmm. So you were born at the family home, right?
Yep, and always.
Was Amy born there too?
I think so.
What did you do when you were a little kid?
Oh, well, when I got old enough to be active doing something, we were always playing games out in the road by our house. We used to play shinny. It's dirt hockey, but on the ice. We used to go out in the swamp and cut us out a little crooked stick to use. And we used to do old pet milk cans. It was solid on both ends. And
solid on both ends?
Yeah. Just punch a hole and get the milk out.
Hmm.
They made good shinny cans.
Did you use them? Did you squash them down or use them?
No, they got squashed down by being hit with the shinny sticks. And if you shinny down the wrong side, you got shinned in your shins. And that didn't feel too good. So you learned real quick to stay on the right side of the can in the long run.
That's where that saying "shinny on your own side" comes from.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you ever play Annie High Over Big Tail?
Oh, sure, yeah, we played that a lot. And Lego, Red Light.
Tell us about the time the neighborhood kids put you in a hole in the ground.
Oh, yeah. We had up in front of the house, there was a vacant lot out there. It was our ball diamond. And it had a drop-off in the alleyway. So we dug a cave back in through there. We had about 3 entrances to it. And one day there was a bunch of us kids out there, and I crawled in there, and those guys went and got stuff and weeds and stuff and covered the holes and started a fire in all those places. And I had to get out of there fast. I wouldn't have got out of there. Oh, we had some pretty rough times in the neighborhood. We used to fight a lot. We used to make slingshots and choose up sides and go to the old gravel pit by the cemetery and have
Shoot
fights,
stones?
shoot stones or whatever we could.
Did you ever get hit?
Oh yeah, I got hit right in the head one time and the blood come running out. And I hit another kid in the head and he got bloody too.
Tell us about the time you were swinging in the basement and you hit the wall.
Oh yeah, I was probably about 5. And we had a little swing that we could swing in the wintertime when it was cold outdoors. And the cement blocks back then were made with humps on them all over. They weren't smooth.
Mm.
And I was swinging, and I swung too hard, and I hit the back of my head on the cement block, and the blood started running out. I had to go to the doctor, and then as it healed, proud flesh formed over it, so I had to go back different times, and they'd take one of these things that long, looked like a matchstick, and he'd roll it around on my head and burn that flesh off. And boy, I mean, it burned when he did that. But that's part of the game, like growing up here.
Well, you went to school at the South Washington School, didn't you?
Yeah, that's, all of us went down there. So we went out
How
to the
many
other
schools did you go to in your life? South Washington
Pilgrim Holdings
and Lincoln?
and the Lincoln
And the high school.
Wausau High. Yeah.
Well, I went to the Emerson and to the New Washington and South Washington and Lincoln in high school. But we were far apart in school.
I went to the New Washington for kindergarten.
So did I.
They didn't have kindergarten in the old Washington school.
Did they have a Three Bears house there in the kindergarten?
I don't know, they had a lot of blocks of them. I used to spend most of my time building these blocks. That was my favorite pastime in school anyway.
What do you remember about your mother?
Oh, she was nice. She used to have to spank me. I was a pretty ornery kid. I helped her a lot, though.
What you do?
We each had to do our chores, and back then we had the old hand wringer washing machine. You had to wring the clothes by hand.
Mm.
We had three, number 3 wash tubs, and we put the water in, and then we had one tub that we put the bluing in, and it had a plunger and plunge the bluing up and down, and mix it in so that was like bleach
Mm-hmm.
in the water. And we had to do the peas, shuck the peas, and sort the beans for soup, and pick out all the old ones. And we had lots to do, but there was a big family, so there was plenty of us to do it.
Well, tell how you used to surprise your mother when she'd go away sometimes.
Oh yeah, she had a lot of real pretty glass dishes. One of them had Ulysses S. Grant on it, and they were in a special closet. Well, I used to get them down when I was able to handle them. They were pretty heavy. Get them down and wash them all, shine them all up, and put them back in the cupboard. And surprised her with doing that.
How old do you think you were then?
Oh, I was probably 9, somewhere in there.
You remember you used to have an organ?
Yeah, I had an old organ, pump organ, and when my mother got tired of pumping it, us kids would crawl underneath and pump the pedals while she played the music.
What was her favorite song?
Oh, her favorite song was Thine Eyes Have Seen the Glory of the Coming of the Lord. She used to play that a lot.
What do you remember about your dad?
Oh, he was a hard worker, and he had the dray business. Started it with a horse and wagon here in Wausau. Picked up all the stuff from the stores, and then we had got a farm out south of Wausau, and we raised pigs on there and fed all the city garbage to the pigs. And we had about 200 pigs and about 200 New Zealand red rabbits and some chickens.
And gardens?
Gardens. Lots of garden to do.
You loved garden work, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. It was all the old hardware then. We had one of those hand cultivators, and one of us had to be the horse for a while, and then they'd change, and somebody else would be the horse, and doing the cultivating up and down between the rows, and bugging the potatoes, and getting the worms out of tomatoes, and all kinds of things to do. And then we used to pitch horseshoes with the old, none of the shoes were alike. They were off the horse, right off the horse proper. And they were all different sizes. That's all we had, so we used to pitch horseshoes that way. And we didn't have any money to buy softballs and like that, so we stuffed a sock full of old rags and used to hit that with a little hole handle.
Did you really?
Yeah, and that's where I got another knot on the back of my head because Chet was, I was bad at, I was catching, and Clarence chased the ball that Chet hit, and I went ahead to catch it, and Chet stayed behind me. He was looking at the ball coming in, and when he swung, it was my head that he hit instead of the ball. It bled all over the place. So that was another cave-in on that side. And then I got another cave-in on the other side from catching behind the batter. And I don't know if it was Clarence or not, but Clarence had a habit of stepping back when he swung the bat. And I think it was him that cracked me on the other side. So.
Well, then none of that sounds as bad as what you did with the spiked nails.
Oh no, that was terrible. I stuck 2 spiked nails in my nose and ran through the house. When I got to the front door, I hit the door with my nails in my nose and bled all over the place from that. And then another time I was running through the house and the storm door, glass door, I pushed on that and stood on the side of the thing, and it sprung back and my arm went right through the door. That's right there.
Oh, that's a long scar.
Yeah, and they put clamps in that.
Boy, that must have been about a 3-inch cut.
Oh yeah, they didn't stitch back in those days. They put clamps in and squeeze them together. So I was the boy that was always getting bruises and cuts and whatnot. It was a hard way to grow up. We sure had a lot of fun though in my neighborhood with the neighbor kids. Sometimes we'd get in trouble. Then get carried away on our games. We sure had a lot of fun on that hill in the wintertime though. It was just a nice slope there. And we had sleds, what was left of them.
You mean where it went down towards
yeah, down
Grand Avenue that way?
Down Ridge Street, by the side of the house. We spent time out there until they made us come into bed. We'd stay out there till 8, 9, 10 o'clock. We'd get away with it. But we always had to go to bed early and get up early. Everybody had to be at the breakfast table at the same time. My dad was always cooking the breakfast, and if no one got there, they waited till the next meal. When he said, "Come on, you better be down there." And poor Bert, he was a sound sleeper, and he just never got out of bed, it seemed like. But when he heard my dad's footsteps going up the stairs, he was on his way down. Oh boy.
How did your dad correct you?
Oh boy, he had our potatoes back then used to come in a big barrel, wooden barrel. And those were the toughest barrel staves I ever saw, because we used to try to split them up for kindling wood. And they were just rubbery. They wouldn't break with a axe even, hardly. Boy, when he smacked you with that, you knew it. It stung. I mean, it really stung. Worse than anything I've ever had on my tail end.
What happened the night you sprinkled crumbs around?
Oh, yeah. We're never supposed to have eaten upstairs in the living room, and we had some crackers up there, and we were eating them up there, and the crumbs were getting everywhere, and my dad came in, and he was fit to be tied, and he said, "All right, follow me." And Amy was in on it too, but Sis took Amy and hid her under the bed, so she got out of that one. And as we marched out of there, my brother Art said, "Where he leads me, I will follow." And we went down to the furnace room to the old swatting place. And the barrel staves flew that night again.
Okay, now I know you didn't spend all your time getting lickings and stuff. What did you used to like to do for your mother down by the cemetery? You used to go down there.
Oh yeah, I used to go down there, and it was loaded with violets. And I used to pick violets after violets in big bouquets and take them back to my mother. She loved violets, and she loved 4-leaf clovers. Whenever I found a 4-leaf clover, I'd take that home. She'd put it in a book and let it dry in there between the pages. Yeah, she really liked flowers, and especially she liked violets. And pansies, she liked them too.
Do you remember going to church when you were little?
Yeah, we went to that little Methodist church over on Railroad, or Monroe. I guess it was Monroe.
That's where I was in the Cradle Roll too.
Yeah, they called it the Railroad Methodist Church.
Mhm.
Right by the railroad tracks over there.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was, and they didn't have a piano. They didn't believe in pianos in that church. A lady got up at church time and just with a pitch pipe and pitched the music, and everybody started singing.
Mhm.
They had no musical instruments at all in there. They just didn't allow them.
And how long do you think you went there?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years. I was about 5 then when I was going over to that church, I think.
And then you went to the Pilgrim Holiness School, so you went to church there for a little
Yeah,
bit.
when we got taken out of the public school, we went up there to the Pilgrim Holiness Church up on here at Baker College now.
Mhm. Ooh, just a second, we'll be back. Well, the phone just rang, and it was Danny and Ida Hink down in McMinnville, Tennessee, with their children Timothy, Danita, and Kimberly. And we had a really good talk. They're going to make a tape for us. The kids play piano and violin and sing, and then we're going to send them a copy of the family video. We were talking about when Dad was a little boy, when we were interrupted by the phone call, I guess. Let's go on from that, Jess. After you, as you were growing up, let us hear some of the jobs that you did. You worked with your dad, of course. But
Well, before that, I was a sub on the Argus Press paper with my neighbor kid down the street. And I subbed with him for quite a long time. And, of course, from August 30, 1933, my folks were sitting in the pickup truck in the yard, and I said goodbye to them, and we went down to the paper place to get our papers. And while we were sitting there waiting for him to come down the chute, my brother Chet come running in, and he grabbed me and took me back home, and got back there, and there was cars everywhere in the neighborhood, and come to find out my dad had shot my mother and then shot himself. And that was a bad thing for us, being that young. I was only 12, and Amy was only 10, and we had to overcome that and try to go back to school and everything. I think after that I wasn't too much interested in school. If my mother had lived, I'd have probably graduated from high school, but I kind of lost interest in it after that. And then when I got in the 8th grade, and I started in the 9th grade, I was 16 at Christmas time, at my birthday, January 4th, so I didn't go back to school. I just quit and went to work, and been working ever since.
well, when you were a little boy, though, you used to go around and collect bottles.
Oh yeah,
For horseradish?
we used to go to the house with a wagon, house to house, and ask if they had any newspapers, magazines, rags, copper, brass, or anything like that. And there was an old man over on Front Avenue that made horseradish in the basement of this big building. So we'd go to the dump yard and find all the horseradish bottles. We found out what they looked like and found all of them we could find and take them back to him, and he'd give us a penny or so a piece for them. And we went around making our money that way. And
You baled paper, didn't you?
yeah, that was later on. That was this stuff was before I quit school, this papers and stuff. But then when I quit school, Harry gave me a job baling paper in a baler, cardboard and paper. You bale it up and then put wires around it and make it into a bale. Open the door and pull it out.
How much did you get?
10 cents an hour. But I was so little and so light, I couldn't make a very tight bale because I couldn't pull down hard enough on the handle to do it. But they passed inspection anyway. And we piled them up and sold them to the junkyard. Oh, the grass junkyard over there on Cedar Street.
When did you have your first car?
Oh, I had my first car. Well, not till I was 18, I guess.
What was it?
Well, the first thing I had was a Model T truck. And I started, a farmer had it out in his barn. He hadn't used it for a long time, and my brother Art went out there with me, and we checked it out. It looked like it was in pretty good shape. So we got it started and running. You probably don't know about the Model T, but they don't. You have to start them on the battery and then flip the switch over to the mag. And down below the dash, you had four, what do they call them now?
Levers, buttons.
No. There were four little batteries like underneath. Well, it ran the mag. That's what it was. You started on the battery and flipped it over and went onto the mag. And coils.
Coils.
Yeah. And then we got it going good, and so I went around and asked the different stores downtown if I could pick up the boxes and cardboard boxes and the old orange crates and banana crates and all that stuff. And so I lined up started a business doing that. It didn't last very long, but I had a lot of fun with that old truck, running that and going out to dumping my loads and going back after more.
How old were you when you started shoveling coal?
Well, it was right after I quit with this truck of my own that I went full-time working for Harry on the pickup truck. I got a chauffeur's license and went hauling coal. And then I was garbage man in Owasso for 2 or 3 years. Had over 800 and some customers. Had them all.
Not by yourself.
Yeah, had them all memorized. And
But wasn't it for your dad that you worked?
for Harry.
Oh, for Harry.
Yeah. My dad was gone.
Mm.
And I did that for a long time. And then World War II started, and I was going to be 21 in January, so in February I went in after Pearl Harbor. February 15, I signed up and went into the service.
Well, before that, when you lived with your different brothers after your
Yeah,
folks died, but
yeah.
then when did you go by yourself and live in a room by yourself?
Oh, that was when I started working for Harry when I was 18, and I got a room and a lunch card. Used to get a lunch card back then. They a little ticket with numbers on, 25 cents, 10 cents, so on. When you go to get your meal, they just keep punching that out. And so you use that up and then you get another card. And that's the way I just had a room, so I couldn't cook in that room. I had to eat my meals out.
And then you were how old when you joined the service?
21, yeah.
When did you join?
February 15, 1942.
And you went where?
Well, I went for basic training to Battle Creek. That's where they were, Fort Custer. That's where they were training for the Michigan guys.
So you stayed there 6 weeks?
Stayed there. No, that's where they inducted us. But then I went right out of there about 8 days after that, after we had our clothes and stuff. And they sent me to Little Rock, Arkansas, to Camp Robinson, Arkansas. I got in the medics there. I put in, they said if you volunteer, you can choose your service, and so I put in for quartermaster because I wanted to drive truck. But I never did see a quartermaster, not all that time. So I had 6 weeks in the medics, and or 8 weeks probably. It was probably 8 weeks altogether.
You had to learn bandaging and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
all that litter bearing. We had to.
Did you have to learn to give shots?
No, didn't do shots. We were just litter bearers. Learned how to pick up the wounded and bring them into the tents where they'd set up stations, different stations. And I didn't like that job anyway. And then when we finished, they shipped us out to Washington, Vancouver Barracks, Washington. We got out there and there was too many medics, so they lined us up and said, "How many of you guys really want to be in the medics?" And or don't want to be in the medics, I guess they said. And I said, "I don't want to," so I put my hand up. And so they singled us guys out and took the other guys to the hospital because they didn't have room for all of us to work in that hospital anyway. So I got in the military police out there. chasing prisoners and one
You
from
like
another.
that top
Yeah,
robbers.
I like that stuff anyway. I enjoyed the military police.
You like the marching and dress
Oh
parades.
yeah,
didn't
yeah, I
you?
like that marching and dress parade stuff too. But that's where I got into military police. And I had some really exciting times in that place right there at Vancouver Barracks before I left there. We had a stockade there where the prisoners were that were AWOL or whatever. And we had a little short, fat sergeant, Buck Sergeant. He was the roughest thing you ever saw. And we had shotguns, that pump shotguns that hold 3 shots in them. And whenever you took a prisoner out, you each were assigned a prisoner to take off for work detail that day. And whenever you take a prisoner out, he would say to you, now, you take this prisoner out, you bring him back. If you don't bring him back, you bring his shoes back. Meaning, if he tries to get away, you shoot him. If you don't, you serve his time until they find him. And so I said, hey, that didn't sound too good. So, well, we got going on that thing. And one day I was chasing a prisoner that worked in the kitchen. In the kitchen,
Why did you say chasing him? Was he running?
no, that they call it chasing, prison chasing.
Just watching him?
Yeah. And this guy was working for the cooks that day, and down in the basement, all the tables were set up for the prisoners to come over and eat down there. And they had a stockroom downstairs that said cooks only on the door. And so this guy was working back and forth up in there, and he came down the stairway. It was a crooked stairway to the basement. And I was sitting at the landing watching it both ways, and he sputtered for that door over there. And I said, hey, that says cooks only. And he said, well, you aren't going to stop me, are you? And so I thought I'd just scare him, so I pumped back the shotgun, and I had it on a 45-degree angle, and the bullet went into the chamber and blew a hole through the floor right by the cook's foot upstairs.
Oh.
And I thought, boy, this is the end for me. But I got out of that mess.
Well, what happened?
Whoa, that cook was mad.
Yeah, but
Well, that guy backed right up against the wall, and he was white as a sheet.
yeah, but what happened when the bullet went through the floor, the
Well,
ceiling?
it stopped.
Yeah, but you told me
Yeah.
plaster fell
Oh,
down
that was
all
down
over
in
the
the kitchen.
table.
It blew the plaster off the wall all
All
over
over
the
the
kitchen, all over the dining room table with all the dishes on. We
Yeah.
had to redo the whole thing there.
Were they mad at you?
Oh, they were all mad at me, yeah. But I showed that sergeant. I said, well, this thing, you're never supposed to have one in your chamber unless you're going to fire it. And I said, well, I was just trying to scare him. I said, and this thing pulled it right in there and fired it, pulled the hammer right in as I slid the chamber. And it fired it automatically, just like that. And he checked it out. And those were old shotguns. And he said, well, it was a faulty thing, all right. They didn't do anything to me. And I guess I needed them too bad to throw me in the jail. Anyway. Yeah, and then I moved out of there to Oregon, yeah, down to Tampa Dare, Oregon, a brand new infantry camp down there. So then we stood duty at all different places. We patrolled the cities and stood guard at the gates and checked people in and out as they come to visit and so on. And then we went to all these different towns all over the place. At night, when they were on pass, we had to check on these guys that were on pass, make sure they didn't get in trouble. If they did, we had to take them into the police station in the town. And then we had to chase down anybody that was AWOL. And we were looking for this guy in and out of the bars and everywhere. And finally I said to this guy with me, I said, well, let's check the hotels around here and see if he's in there. And so we went into this hotel, and I described the guy and showed him a picture, and he said, oh yeah, he checked in here a little while ago. He's up in 308 upstairs, up on the third floor. I said, okay. So I told this guy, I said, you wait down here and I'll go up in case he comes down the stairs or something. So I went up, and his door was just a little ajar when I got up there, and I knocked on it and pushed it open. He saw my MP band on there, and he sat up in bed like a shot, And I said, hey, you're AWOL. He said, yeah, I know. I said, well, get your clothes on. Let's go. So we had to take him in. And so that They didn't have to look for him anymore. And I had to go to Portland, Oregon, and go to Fort Hood, Nebraska, and pick up a prisoner that had gone AWOL, and that was a long trip. I got a chance to go on to Michigan for 3 days, and then come back and pick him up on the way home. And got him back to camp. We just one round after another like that.
Well, now, how come? When did you ever get into the Air Force?
Well, while I was there in the military police, they were sending out notices that they need gunners for gunnery school to work to be in the airplane. So I thought, boy, I'd like that. So I had to take another equivalent test, you know. And so I passed that, and so I was off to Las Vegas, Nevada. That's where the training school was for gunners. And I got down there, and they right away the first thing they do, they put you in one of these pressure tanks. It's just like you're being in the bay of the bomber, and you're going up to 30,000 feet, just like you're in the bomber. And so going up was fine; it didn't bother a bit. But coming back down, they stopped us at about 18,000 feet, and they said, "Now take your oxygen out." And so they said, "All right, put your mask down, go out. Let's go on down." And we started down.
Going down. Let's find out what happened. Continue, JP.
So when they stopped there, why the guy came up with a little spray bottle and he sprayed up my nose, and that helped take away some of the pain.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So then when we got clear down to the bottom, we all unmasked and got ready to leave the tank. Why this the officer came up to me and said, "We're gonna have to send you to the doctor and have him check you out and see what's wrong." So he sent me over to this major. He was a doctor, and he said to me, he said, "You sure you want to be a gunner?" I said, "Well, that's what I came down here for." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what may happen." He said, "You're a little guy." He said, "They're going to stick you off in the tail of that plane for sure." And he said, "You'll be out there by yourself, and all the other 10 crewmen are going to be dependent on you, like they each depend on each other to do their job." And he said, "If you blacked out there in that tail, everybody would come in on that tail and they could just destroy that plane without any battle at all." And so he said, "You go back to barracks and think it over a minute." And so I did. I went back to barracks and I thought, well, boy, if I may be the one that'd be responsible for 10 other guys going down, I said, I guess I don't want to do this. So I transferred out of there to Smoky Hill Army Air Base in Kansas and got into the B-29 Super Forts on the ground crew, driving truck to pick up crews. And we didn't know where we were headed for sure, but when we got through that training there, they shipped us to California, and then we trained a little there on how to
Board ship?
Go get off ship when it's ship sinking or something. They had to get this rope ladder, and it was muddy and raining, and everybody's stepping on your hands. And
well, then how long were you in the service before you went overseas? How long were you in the States?
I was overseas.
I mean, how long?
19 months overseas.
And how long in the States?
3 years, 8 months altogether.
19 months of it overseas.
About 19 on this side too. Yeah.
You were in you were in India.
Yeah, India, Tinian Island, both those places. I flew home from Tinian Island when the war was over.
But you went over there on a boat. Took a long time.
31 days on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'd rather go on a plane, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah. Anytime.
Well, you came back from the war,
Yeah.
and you went to work at.
Went back with Harry again.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And then I started having a lot of back trouble. Of course, I had back trouble on Tinian Island.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all that monkey business started, loading bombs over there. It tore my back up.
Well, after you quit working for Harry, then did you go right to work for Douglas Trucking?
Yeah, I had two, about, what, 10 or 15 weeks of drawing money for my back. Like 26 weeks I could draw, 26 weeks for
Workman's comp?
back trouble.
That's from getting hurt with Harry? You got workman's comp?
Yeah.
Oh.
In
really?
the Army, I tried to get the Army to do something, but they didn't do anything about it. I just had to live with it all my life anyway.
Well,
But then I got working for Douglas.
maybe we should go back. Maybe we should go back to my childhood now, and then come up to the place where we got together after you came home from the service.
Yeah.
Okay. I was born May 14th, 1928, and I was ninth in a family of 12, and I had 7 brothers and 3 sisters. They were Marion, Bernice, Neva, Leo, Leona, Miles, Orion, me, Dwayne, Delbert, and Dwight. And we had a brother that died. I think he was about 4 days old, and I think his name was either Leonard or Leon. I'm not sure, but I think he was after Leona, between Leona and Ori. I was born on Stinson Street in Wasso. And in my childhood, I don't have a whole lot of early memories of my childhood. I know that there was a lot of music. My dad played the fiddle, and my mother played the piano, and my brothers played guitars and banjos and Jew's harps and mouth organs, and we used to have a lot of fun with music. And of course, with a big family, we had a lot of excitement going on all the time too. But it was funny because my older brothers and sisters were married. By the time I can hardly remember, it's like I can remember my brothers and sisters-in-law just about as well as I can my older brothers and sisters. Leo was home when I was little, and he was in business college. And Ori and Mike, Ori's 3 years older than I am, and Mike's 4 years older, so that we were the little kids, me and my 3 little brothers, and then Ori and Mike were the middle ones, and then the older ones. So it was sort of a mixed-up family. And I've got nieces and nephews that were about as old as my little brothers were, and so we kind of grew up together. But my memories of my childhood, there aren't a whole lot of them. I remember being left at school when I was in the kindergarten and being scared that nobody would ever come and get me. And I can remember stepping on bees out under the pear trees when I was real little. But what I remember was that my brother started me in piano lessons when I suppose I was about, well, it was when we lived in Grand Avenue that I was taking piano lessons and walking up Kite Street. So I was really, and I was really little then. In Stewart Street, we lived on Stewart Street, so I don't know how old I was when I started, but I was taking lessons when I was about 9, I remember. And I got into the 3rd book. When Leo went to the service, then Bernie paid for my lessons. And I've always been thankful for that because we've had music in our lives with our family since the kids came along, and it's been a big part of our life. I don't remember getting spankings when I was little. Yeah, we lived right next to the boarding plant when I was little, and my dad worked there, and all my brothers at one time or another worked there. And so we had horses in the horse pasture next to us, and they pulled the milk wagons all around town. That's when they delivered milk in the glass bottles, and they used to sit the glass bottles on the porches in the winter, and a little
Cream.
little paper cap would pop out and the cream would go up about 2 inches above the milk. That was just like eating ice cream, eating that cream. And the horses used to get loose and run around the pasture and run all over my mother's garden and run up on Front Avenue, and we'd have to chase them. And we have a lot of memories. I have a lot of memories of 406 South Saginaw. That place is torn down now and gone. But eventually, Verna, Jesse, and Tina were all born while we had lived there, when the folks still had that place. But I can remember ice skating on the Shiawassee River in the wintertime, building a fire on the bank, and all the kids skated down there, and we'd come home from skating, and my mom would have hot homemade bread and cut it and put butter on it. Apple butter. That was so good. And they used to, in this town, they used to have skating rinks that they made, up at Bennett's Field, but I never met your dad until I was grown up. My sister married his brother Clarence when she was only 16, but I was 8 then, and so you would have been 15. I remember one time when we lived on Stewart Street and you walked down the street past the house, because I remember asking somebody who you are and thinking you were so cute with your black curly hair and your hair. But then I never met your dad really until he came home from the service. Well, we should talk a little bit about my church life. I went to that same little Railroad Methodist church when I was very small. The neighbors took me, I think. And I remember at one time they were having an evangelistic effort, and I really, really remember giving my heart to Jesus when I was just little. And I don't remember how long I went to church there, but I went a little bit to the Pilgrim Holiness Church behind the South Washington School, Remember when I was little? Yeah, when I was about 9 and Dwayne was about 7. We sang Star of the East there for a Christmas program. But I don't remember a lot about church life except when I was probably in the 8th grade. My brother Miles was a Christian, and he went to a gospel tabernacle. He went to the gospel Grace Tabernacle. It was a non-denominational place, and I remember going there with him and singing with him, playing the guitar. And that was mostly my church, except Bernie was a Seventh-day Adventist, and when I would go there every summer for a couple weeks, she would take me to church 2 Sabbaths in the summer. And I remember reading Present Truth, and I remember reading about the Sabbath and believing that the Sabbath was Saturday, like the Bible says. And so it was after Dad and I were married that I gave my heart to the Lord again and began to take Bible studies, and we joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But it was when your dad came back from the service, and Leona and Clarence had come back from the service too, after you, that we started going together, and we were married in November 1946, November 23, 1946, down at Oxbow Lake, at Leona and Clarence's, at a little church down there. We lived there for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And where'd you work, Jess? Pontiac Motors in the foundry.
Yeah.
Hot, terrible work.
Mm-hmm.
We went back to Owasso and lived in Grandma and Grandpa's house on 406 South Saginaw. Verna was born there, and we built an apartment upstairs, and Jesse and Tina were both born in that apartment upstairs. When I remember back about living there, your dad was not a Christian then. Well, I wasn't going to church either. You went to work for Douglas.
Yeah.
And it was while we lived there, and before I had Jesse or Tina, I can't remember which one. It must have been before Tina was born. It must have been before Jessie was born that she came and papered and painted,
Oh,
because
wow.
that's when I started going to church. No, it was probably after Jessie was born. But Bernie came and painted and papered the place and talked to me about the Lord and prayed with me. And then I listened to some Sunday broadcasts and gave my heart to the Lord right there. And then I just started taking 20th Century Bible course, and I went to church. I remember the first time I went to church was Verna and Jessie before Tina was born. It was winter time, and you took us to church, I guess. And we went, and the girls were so scared they hung on to me and wouldn't move away from me, and they bawled, and I got so upset I went out and called a taxi cab, and we went home. And after that I didn't take them. I just go by myself, and you'd take care of them until after Tina was born. Then you started to go to church with us, and then we were both baptized before we had the twins. And the church has been very important to us. The Lord's been very important to us through our lives and taken us through all the thick and the thin of it. Without our faith in God, I don't know how we'd have made it. But looking back at some of the things that happened when the kids were little, I can remember when we first started going to church, and Tina was a baby, and Verna was able to walk and everything. And our first visitors almost from church were Ina and Al Loader. And they came to visit us up in that apartment, and we were sitting in the living room talking. And I probably hadn't had, I don't know if I'd had Tina yet, but anyway, all of a sudden, here came Verna, riding her tricycle. She'd gotten out of bed and taken off all of her clothes, and here she came riding her tricycle down the hall into the living room. Oh, Al Loader had a big laugh over that, and I was so embarrassed and thought, oh my, how terrible that was. I can laugh at it now thinking back, but she was streaking at a young age. Yeah. And then I can remember we lived there when Dwayne came, my brother Dwayne came home from the Air Force, and he was coughing up blood and was very sick. And when he got back to the camp, and they found out he had TB, and we had the girls tested, and Jessie had active TB, and we had to keep going down to Howell, and we had moved. Well, in that interim of time, we lived there when Dwayne came home, and then we moved to North Street. Our first place was 704 North Street in Owasso. It was a house we were buying from your brother, your half-brother. And so Jessie had to be put in a room by herself. We had to boil her dishes and keep her toys separate and everything. And at that time I was pregnant for the twins. And she got better at home. And the twins were born before Tina was a year old. 8 days before she was a year old. And that was such a bumpy, terrible road that we had to move out of there and down and stay with Grandma again until the twins came, because I couldn't have ever made it down that road. And at that time, Tina wasn't a year old yet, and we had to let her go and stay at Ori and Jenny's for about 3 months, I think. And that was terrible to have to part with our baby. But and the twins were born when we lived there, and we sold that place and moved into a trailer to help build the Owasso Church. We gave $400 to the Owasso Church and had to sell the house to get the money. We pledged without knowing where it was coming from, but the Lord blessed us, and then the church really helped us build a house, brand new house on Griffith Street there in Owasso. And we lived there till we moved to Florida. And we moved to Florida because my folks went to Florida, and I didn't want to be away from my folks. But we were only down there 17 months, and we moved back to Owasso again. And eventually we moved to work at the Delphine Academy, and we lived there several years. The kids had most of it. And you were a mill foreman, and you worked on the moving van, and yeah. And I worked for Dr. Buchanan a lot of the time, but not until the kids were in school I didn't start to work. Mm-hmm. Well, we're feeling run down now. We'll stop for a while. Well, we can't really stop. We only had the twins born. Now we've got to see what happened with Don and Jean. We had moved out of our house up on North Street and into a trailer down by our folks' house again on 406 South Saginaw, and that's where we lived when Donnie was born. And
He was born out at the River Street.
no, he wasn't. Jean was. Donnie was born in that trailer by Mom, and then we moved out and we lived in a trailer between Thompson's house and the Griffiths' house when Donnie was a baby, and then Jean was born on Griffith Street.
We were in that trailer, and Marilyn went up to the hospital with her boy. We were in that trailer, and Don was born right along with him.
Oh, Donnie was born when we lived on 406 on Saginaw in that trailer. He was a baby when we moved out to the other place, but anyway, and then Jean was born on Griffith Street when we lived in that house. Mm-hmm. So now we've got all 7 of our kids. And there's a lot of moving around and a lot of things that happen back and forth, but we're too tired tonight to go into the rest of it, and we don't know how long this tape's going to go, so we'll stop for now and talk with you folks later. Bye-bye. This tape was begun in Owasso, Michigan in 1993, following the 47th anniversary family reunion. It was meant for all the offspring and spouses of the Jesse P. and Nina L. Hall clan. The last portion was added in Brandon, Florida in 1997. I'm so thankful that we're able to hear of Jess's early childhood, work life, and Army tales in his own voice. Some of you were unable to see him before he died. I know you have feelings of regret. Please be assured that Grandpa knew how much you loved him, and he loved you in return. He was happy for you to stay on your jobs and take care of your families. He was so thankful for each of you and interested in your lives and your happiness. His one great desire was that we might all be together, an unbroken family in the earth made new. The saxophone solo, Mansion Over the Hilltop, our family song, is played in Jess's memory by Heath Bryant. He and Julie are recent additions to our large circle of friends. We adopted each other when we met at the Village SDA Church in Mason, Ohio, an instant bonding. The closing song, Some Golden Daybreak, is one of Jess's favorites. I sang it for him and played the piano before he died. He loved music, and his celebration service would have pleased him so much. It will be a testimony of God's love every time it is viewed. Dad, Grandpa is gone to his rest, but he will never be forgotten, and there will always be an empty place in the shape of a great man in all our lives. Let's fill that place with pleasant memories and joyful songs, and be ready for the great getting up morning. Till then, good night, Jess. Good night. We love you. Some glorious morning, sorrow will cease. Some glorious morning, all will be peace. Heartaches all ended, school days all done. Heaven will open
come. Some golden daybreak, Jesus will come. Some golden daybreak, battles all won. He'll shout the victory, break through the blue. Some golden daybreak, for me, for you. Sad hearts will gladden, all shall be bright. Goodbye forever to earth's dark night. Changed in a moment, like him to be. Oh, glorious daybreak, Jesus I'll see. Oh, what a meeting there in the skies. No tears nor crying shall dim our eyes. Loved ones united